Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new edition of Game Tales, the show where we talk about things and people listen to what we talk about things, sometimes even though it lasts for over an hour usually. Today's subject is that of MMOs, and with me, as always, is StefaNonsense from the channel StefaNonsense. Hi, Stefan, how are you?
Hi, Unicom. I'm pretty well, and good morning, afternoon to our potential listeners.
So, MMOs. Those sure are a thing, aren't they? I mean,
Yeah.
can you imagine that, like, in the 90s, the early 90s, they were nowhere. Now there's so many of them that there's so many of them and so similar that it took you, like, what, 2 hours, 3 hours to realize you have no idea what's the MMO you played, like, 10 years ago, 12 years ago?
Yeah, it's. I mean, we're gonna get to that in my in my history of MMO playing, but yeah, it's there's been such a huge upswell of MMOs in the mid to end 2000s that yeah, it's pretty crazy, especially Korean-based ones.
Oh, yeah. So MMOs started at their basis in MUDs, in the old MUDs that ran on university servers. They had no graphics, just text, and people just went into chat rooms, and it had some interaction there with their characters. And it wasn't the kind of, they weren't the kind of games that we're playing now.
No, but my introduction to the MMO space was actually via MUD, which just as a bit of extra info for our listeners, for our younger listeners, MUD stands for, or used to stand for, multi-user dungeon. And yeah, as you said, we were text-based, and I'll always describe MUDs like I think it's the purest sort of form of translating a tabletop RPG experience to the computer / very basic internet. Sure, nowadays there's Roll20, there's Discord, nowadays we can actually hold a tabletop RPG session without the people being in the same room. Back then, and with us hearing each other and whatnot, but back then that wasn't possible. And I think MUDs were, and still are, kind of by far the closest thing to that, because you had obviously roleplay. I mean, you could have roleplay. You had stats. You had roles. There was depending on the game, there was PvE, there was PvP. Obviously, there were events in some cases, interactive storytelling. So the MUDs were, and I think there still are a couple pretty cool.
I remember reading about the history of the MMOs. It was on GameSpy. GameSpy has a really good history of the MMO genre, which you should go read. You can only find it on archive.org because the site doesn't exist anymore. But there was a bit about MUDs, where one of the operators of a MUD was saying that she regularly checked in to see what people were doing, and she noticed that, like, at 2 a.m. there were like 10 people in a single chat room, a single area of the game, and they were talking to each other. And she thought, okay, they usually didn't do that. Like, they were spread out, adventuring, but they were all in one place. And she was curious, like, what are they doing? And she went there, and she was shocked to realize that they were sharing recipes for cookies.
Oh yeah, that's one of the main aspects of MMOs and MMORPGs, especially, that people from outside cannot understand and do not see, because the direct experience of the thing definitely allows you to understand it. That is the very massive and very important social aspect of MMOs / MMORPGs, because sure, gameplay is usually fun, hopefully not too grindy, but what actually makes you come back to the game is the community that you're part of and the friends that you make online. And obviously, probably if the game allows it, you're running probably a clan or a guild and things like that. When I used to play a lot of WoW, and that's gonna come up later in the show, I would log in to do the dailies, but sometimes I was way more interested in just saying hi to my guildies and talking to them about their day and telling them about my day, and in the meantime we would go for a raid or a dungeon or something. But I feel that the social/socializing aspect of MMORPGs is something that is quickly glossed over when people talk about them as games, or even worse, when people from the outside talk about them as things that actually hinder socializing, which is kind of totally false.
Yeah, we do get a lot. We do get this a lot with most games, even online ones. People just don't get that we're talking to other people, we're interacting. Though, if it's an online shooter, usually it's better if we didn't.
True, it has a lot to do with fucking each other's mothers in that situation. But we're talking about. I mean, that's why I said especially RPGs, MMORPGs, because that's where communities get formed, and you have to stick together to. Usually, if the game is actually properly designed, there's things that can only be done with the help of your guild or with the help of friends and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's more important because MMOs were based on servers, and if people knew you were an asshole on the server, they would just ignore you. Like everybody would. Word would get around. But when you have something, like a shooter with multiple servers or peer-to-peer matchmaking, that's pointless.
Yeah, that's a completely different Magilla. But and likewise, if you were really good, whatever it is you were, that reputation also was quite known on the server. So but that's where I started. I actually played the MUD because on my first computer, that Mythic 586 DX4 AMD computer couldn't really run a lot of things, especially not internet-based things. And I remember I had read about a MUD in one of the few computer game magazines that ran back then in Romania, and the game was called, and I think it still is, Castle Arcanum. That was the MUD, and I actually logged into it, I think maybe 4 years ago, and it was still functioning. That's how I started my MMO journey. I actually started it where the journey literally started, with a MUD.
That is quite an achievement. I sort of started with there was an online browser-based game called Dark Throne, where you could form guilds and things like that, but you mostly just build up an army, build up defenses, and attack other people to take their money.
Yeah, I think I played that too. That's my second era of MMOs, which is the browser-based strategy games, I guess. Things like the thing you actually mentioned. I think I played that as well, but also things like Travian, O-Game, and there were a bunch of others. Like some of them were like with mechs, some of them were gladiators, that sort of bullshit.
Mm-hmm. I think I played the gladiator one.
Most likely you did.
There was one with vampires and werewolves too.
There was one. Yeah, I played that one as well. Yep.
Something fight or blood fight, blood moon. Doesn't matter.
Probably all of those.
I think that maybe, yeah. What have you by any chance remember what was the first MMO you played? The one as we know them now. Or can you describe it to people so that maybe somebody will figure it out in the comments?
Oh, okay. So you mean that? I had another step until that one, but we can jump to that one. It's fine.
No, let's start with the other step first.
So the other step when it comes to browser-based games was something called Adventure Quest.
Oh my god, I played that too.
Now, Adventure Quest was a Flash-based browser-based game, and the game was huge. I mean, as far for that period of time, it was quite large, and the animations were kind of wonky. But Flash, what can you do? But it was that I sunk a lot of time in that one, in the free version of the game, not even the paid, because I didn't have money back then. I don't really have money now either, but that's a different discussion. But I played Adventure Quest a lot, and I remember at a certain point I discovered that going through a particular chain of places, you would get to fight a werewolf, and then if you get bitten by the werewolf, you become a werewolf as well, and your basic attack becomes 3 attacks at the same time. And then I'd play through as much as I'd play as a werewolf and just destroy stuff.
Gotta say, that's a much better way of becoming a werewolf than in the Elder Scrolls Online. There is a story-based chain quest in the Elder Scrolls Online if you want to become a werewolf, which is stupid.
Oh, okay.
Because I was hanging out near werewolves and just saying, hey, could you scratch me or bite me? We are at the Altar of Hersini, which is the place you have to go to become a werewolf after you do the quest, several quests actually. So everybody was there becoming a werewolf, but I couldn't because I didn't have the quest to become one, because that's how MMOs work.
Yeah, that's how lycanthropy also works.
Yeah,
the quest, motherfucker. You need a quest, and then you need an optimal request form in triplicate, and
it's bureaucracy.
Exactly, and then you need 1 copy is for you, 1 copy is for the authorities, and 1 copy is that we wipe our asses with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first actual real. More graphically.
One more thing about Adventure Quest, something that people may not know. The singer Voltaire, who makes those wonderful gothic songs, actually made a bunch of songs for Adventure Quest. And they're in the game.
Cool to know. Nice. See, people who listen to the besides our occasional misrememberings and mishaps, useful trivia. Game tales. Okay, so now we've been talking about this off mic for like 2 hours before actually starting recording this.
And we still haven't figured it out.
Yeah, I still haven't figured it out. I'm trying to remember the title of a Korean-made, basically, MMO that was quite popular at least in Romania, sometimes in the mid-2000s. I'm going to say 2005, 6, maybe 7. You
said it was pre-Metin, so that would make it between 2004 and 2006, somewhere around there.
It was, I played it in like either 2004, 5, 6, sometime in that period range. Yeah, it was, Metin was released or was already existing at the same time, but I started playing this other game that I cannot remember the name of. And basically, so like I said, it was set in this sort of Chinese-inspired fantasy-ish land, I guess. You had 3 classes. One was a spellcaster, one was a melee fighter, obviously, and the other one was a ranged, an archer.
It's kind of annoys me because that is exactly the definition of the first MMO that I played, but it's totally different.
Yeah, obviously. And a couple of differentiating things I remember about the game was that everyone used the jumping feature because walking or running was much too slow and every character just jumped everywhere. So that made for a really weird thing. It was obviously a very grindy sort of experience because Korean RPGs. I think they're still grindy now.
Oh God, they are.
Yeah, and the way in which you could upgrade your weapons was, well, first of all, you needed weapons of equal quality and a meteor or a meteorite. That was like the special item that you needed in order to combine with equal level items in order to upgrade. So basically, you had a sword, and then you would need like 2 identical swords and maybe a meteor to get a sword +1. And then if you wanted a sword +2, you needed 2 sword +1s and another meteor to get to a sword +2.
You want to hear something funny? The Call Online also had a similar system.
It's possible that the game changed its name.
But I saw screenshots of it, so it wasn't the same.
I looked at screenshots of Call Online, and it's not that game. But obviously, I think this was a trend with the +1 thingies in that time period, and yeah, I don't know. It was kind of 3D, but kind of also isometric view-ish.
But it could jump, which is something that a lot of MMOs back in the day could not allow you to do.
Yeah, no, you could jump in all directions. Yeah, and you could also mine. It was a client-based game. It wasn't browser-based, and you could just let your character in the mine to literally mine for whatever ore you used, and you use the ore only to sell it. But the idea was that there was like a slim chance of mining magical precious stones, which you socketed into your weapons and made them that much slightly better than normal weapons.
So if anybody knows what game this is, please say so in the comments.
Yeah, I would like to. Just so we allow me. Let's get through the list of what it isn't, just so we avoid. So it's not Cal Online.
It's not Silkroad.
It's not Silkroad.
It's not Moo. It's not Zoo.
It's not Metin. It's not Metin 2 or Moo Legend or whatever. It's not Nine Dragons. Although I thought it might have been that. That might have been the name, but it's definitely. Again,
Wushu Online had more than 3 classes.
Yeah. Again, it might have changed in the meanwhile. I mean, it might have changed names and maybe it added classes. I imagine it could have added classes. But so what I'm talking about is what the game was like in the mid 2000s.
So if anybody knows.
Yeah, it's not Zoo Online either. Not obviously not Lineage. Not Ragnarok, RuneQuest, whatever else the fuck. Yeah, no. So it would be interesting because the thing is, I spent like a lot of months playing this game quite obsessively, and I used to say that those are that's a period of time in my life that I'll never get back. Apparently, forgetting of the name is the closest I'll get to it. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, is that I can't remember the name, but it's annoying for this particular application because I really wanted to remember the name for the show.
Well, I do remember what the first MMO as we know it now I played was. It was Cal Online. I just got an internet connection at home. It was 2006. And I wanted to play Silkroad Online because people were saying on the forums that it was popular and free, but the servers were down, so I didn't download it. Instead, I searched something similar and I found Cal Online. It's just like the game you described. So 3 classes, warrior, spellcaster, archer. You had kind of interesting mechanics to it. You could hold an egg in your inventory and it will hatch in a year or so, like so, because it was extremely grindy. Like you had every level, you had, I think, 1 quest that you could do to get some extra experience, which was like a 10th of what you needed to get at the next level. It was, simply put, complete bullshit. But at the time, I did not know better, so I played it for like a month or 2. Made a couple of friends in the game. We went on adventures. The thing that really struck me about the game is that it had massive PvP, and I mean massive. You basically saw rivers of players just descending upon a single castle in the game and fighting each other and throwing spells. It was a clusterfuck that's beyond belief. Like, you could not understand what was happening at all. But somehow at the end, somebody won. Usually whoever spent the most on the item mall. Did your game have PvP?
Yeah, it did. I wasn't really a part of it. I'm looking through the Cal Online website right now, and I see it has 1, 2, 4, 5. It has 6 classes.
Oh, 6 now! Wow. Actually, it had 3 base classes, and at level 40. So after you retired from your day job and had grandkids, you could specialize into 2 different classes, different subclasses for each class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I don't know. It doesn't have like a lot of. It doesn't have a screenshot area. I mean, game info.
It's still running. I know it's still running. I think I tried to log into it at least in 2011. I had to log into it to make a show about it and how much it still sucks. Yeah. I mean, in 2006, you could still fall through the floor, and now you didn't fall like into an endless void. You fell just right below the floor, and if you had PvP turned on, it's an archer, or you could kill everybody, or even the mobs. Most mobs were melee. So the archer was basically the class you wanted to fight as.
Yeah. It was similar in this other game as well. But the thing is that once you reached level cap, the archer was really powerful. when it came to mobs that were spread around. But the spellcaster was insanely powerful when it comes to spawn points, and spawn point grinding was a thing.
Oh yeah, you just stand in one place and just blast area effect spells.
Yes,
That's what we did in dungeons.
So I don't know. Maybe it turned into this Call Online thing, but kind of doubt it.
Oh, Call Online did not have jumping. Like instead of jumping to move faster, we had mages were the only ones that had speed spells, and they would just advertise selling speed spell. Pay me this much or give me this amount of potions.
Yeah, so I don't know, and that's the annoying thing, because I didn't have the account for that game was on my old Yahoo email account, which I cannot remember the password to. So it's not like I can go back and maybe find an older email from.
Well, considering that it's Yahoo, you can probably find it in a dump file somewhere with hacked emails.
Yeah, like it's not that worth it. It's not that worth my time.
Just check it out on Pastebin or something, or haveyoubeenpawned.com. It may be there.
But yeah, I played that for several months, and then I stopped for like a bunch of time. And then we come to I tried some other couple of better looking, basically, because I got a new computer in the meanwhile. And I tried a couple of other MMOs, but nothing really stuck. I remember trying Hellgate London. Whoever remembers that one. Like one of the attempts at making an MMO FPS. Didn't really stick.
Yeah, that was part of the curse of former Diablo developers. Like, there were a bunch of former people that used to work at Diablo, at Blizzard, and made Diablo, and they tried to make their own games. None of them really succeeded. Hellgate didn't. Throne of Darkness didn't, which was a Japanese themed.
The Japanese themed Diablo, yeah.
Yeah. The only one that actually worked.
Throne of Darkness sounded cool, but it's not an MMO.
Yeah. The only one that really worked for them was Torchlight. That's the only one that succeeded.
Torchlight is really cool. It has to be said. And Torchlight 2 is kind of an MMO, right?
Yeah, you can play it online, and it really, like, it mirrors Diablo 2 perfectly. It has the same act structure.
Okay.
With the same setting for each.
But I really enjoyed I enjoyed the aesthetic of Torchlight.
Yeah, it was fun.
So, what was your first actual? I mean, after Call Online, what was your
after Call Online? When I said, "Oh my god, this game is completely horrible," it was a game where if you wanted to actually get experience, you had to park yourself next to a mob that you were extremely under level for, and just spam the potion key while attacking. There was no delay for potion, so you just spammed attack. Well, you didn't need spam attack; just click on it once and just spam the potion key. My god, it was dreadful. So I found something that just blew my mind. Like, at the time, I had seen that there were better games out there. I had seen screenshots of World of Warcraft. The thing that really amazed me about World of Warcraft in a screenshot, there was a squirrel on a tree.
Yeah.
That blew my mind. But this was still around 2006. Could not afford World of Warcraft.
Of course not.
Like, who can pay that much a month? My God, I could barely afford the internet. I found a game that was pirate-themed. It was called Voyage Century Online, and you had your own ship. You had a person, you had a captain, you were the captain. You could also pilot the ship. You would go on ground and do quests and missions. You could go to sea and kill pirates and attack things and be mauled by bears. It sounded like extreme fun.
You'd be mauled by bears on the sea?
Oh yeah, because you could have bears as pets, or you could just go to an island and be mauled by them there.
Okay, I wasn't aware that, first of all, bears take well to the sea life, or that they take very well to tropical...
Yeah, apparently there's a lot of bears in the game, at least in Majorca Island, and there's some in Crete as well. I'm not sure if Crete actually has bears. I don't think Crete has bears.
No, maybe minotaurs, but I don't know about bears.
There actually was a minotaur in the game.
Well, that one would make more sense than the actual bears. I never heard of this title you're talking about.
Yeah, probably because at the beginning it was amazing. So you would start in Athens. You would, I think you could also start in Beirut. But I started in Athens. I got a class. Well, not a class, but a sort of starter-ish kind of skill set. You could basically play as anything you'd want. It was like Ultima Online used to be, where you didn't have classes, but you could become something that you wanted to become. We should get talking about Ultima Online, but I haven't really played it.
No, neither have I. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Athens landlocked?
No, it's got a port.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
And from Athens, you would go... Well, in Athens, you would have like a small city that you would find NPCs in, have some ruins up in the corner with a depressed poet that you have to kill. There was a quest, but you could also just kill him for fun. And what most people did, because this was a game where if you used the skill, it increased in value, was go to the beach and just punch crabs to level up their melee fighting.
Sure, why not? Were the crabs giant at least?
No. There's a beautiful image with there was a magazine with Manly Magazine or something, some Manly Story, something or the other. And one of the pictures was a man just beating a bunch of crabs with a stick. And there was a version of it where it says, this is a level 1. And then later on it showed the same man, same crabs, but the crabs were now a different color. And the stick had a glowing bit at the end. That's level 80. It's good. A very nice...
That's good progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just looked on the map. So Athens itself, as in the central city of Athens, it has a port, but it's nearby. It's not within the actual city limits. That's why I was confused.
But the thing is that at the beginning, you blew through levels, like punch 2 crabs, level up. I thought it was amazing. Oh my, compared to Call Online, that was amazing. Also, the amount of stuff you could do in the game. You could do trading. You could search for treasures. You could search for treasure and bits of maps that you need to find. You could go around scouting bits of the island until you found a place that sparkled, and there you would find some relic like the Mona Lisa, or I think I actually found the the chalice from King Arthur.
Holy Grail?
Yeah, I think I found the Holy Grail once.
Okay.
Or the Spear over Longinus, at least. There were a bunch of treasures you could find, you could sell, and it was fun for a while. And that's the first game where I actually found Romanians that did not annoy the crap out of me, because I found them in Call Online too. They were bragging on the main chat, the old chat, for which you would need to buy an item to use. That, I stole my mom's credit card and I bought all these things. I just wanted the world to end right there.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah. But in this one, I actually found like people that were 40 years old just playing the game, enjoying it. I got into a guild. We are called the Wanderers. And eventually that turned into Ordo Draconis. We're the second biggest guild. At one time we were the biggest guild on the Magellan server. That's mostly because we all had at least 2 alt accounts, because you could play the game twice or 3 times depending on how good your PC was, and we just have them all in one place, and we'd use side characters for less important stuff like crafting and gathering resources, because you also increased your skill in mining, and you needed to have a certain skill to mine certain metals, so we just park them next to a mine and just have them click, like automatically. Occasionally we would alt tab to give them a stamina potion, so they would have more energy to keep on going. They eventually just they added a bot into the game to do that automatically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we used to do that in the game. I can't remember the title of. We would open like a second client and would just leave the secondary character to mine, because you would mine automatically.
Yep.
You didn't have to click or anything, and we just leave the fucker to mine. And then on occasion, we just go with our main character around and gather the important stuff, and then sell it, and that sort of stuff. I totally understand how that works. Thankfully, that's at least one exploit / cheaty sort of thing that doesn't happen anymore that
Yeah.
much, I guess.
Voice
But
Action
back
Online
then,
was
it was very doable on an individual basis.
Yep. Voice Action Online was a really great social experience for me. Like, I made friends with those people. I still know them today, like 10 years later, 12 years later. I still know them. I still talk to them. It was just a super. We used to spend like morning, depending on when we logged on, you used to find them in the morning, and some of them would be there all day. We would talk, we'd tell jokes, we'd have adventures, like real adventures. Like when we all began, the game would just came out at a beta, or it was still in beta, I think. The beta just launched. Yeah, the beta just launched. We're all basically at the same level, and we would go do things that we weren't supposed to. We would go and see Anubis in the pyramids, which is one of the first bosses you get to fight. We couldn't fight him. Yeah, we couldn't fight him. We would just go there to see him. we would mostly die along the way, but at least we'd take screenshots at the end to prove we got there. It was fun times.
And again, that's what I was talking about in the beginning, that the social aspect of the game became the main reason for you going back to the game, not the actual game.
Because the game itself, as it turns out, the beginning was fun, but as time went on, as you progressed, it got harder and harder and harder to level up, which is kind of funny because the game sold double XP scrolls if you wanted to buy them with real money.
Of course. The pre-age of microtransactions.
Yeah, it was kind of dreadful. And eventually people started leaving because, they had jobs and lives, and like, I think I played it for almost 2 years. Like, I had a pretty high level character, but okay, now with what they added, they had dinosaurs now and dragons and all sorts of. It was a fantasy-ish game, but the fantasy element was sort of subdued. You'd find things in pyramids, in ruins. Now they're kind of everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I eventually gave up on it because pretty much everybody that played gave up. We tried to go to Perfect World Online once, sort of stayed there for a couple of months, and pretty much just gave up on MMOs.
Mm-hmm. Well, my history with MMOs continues as well. So after a while, I don't know. I think I upgraded my computer yet again, so I could play basically everything that was released in like 2000 something, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I guess I was my friends and I were kind of sick of playing single player stuff, and we were like, well, we have this internet, and we had really good internet in Romania. We've always had. Sorry.
Curious, what speed did you have when you got internet?
Oh, initially, I think it was. I don't want to say. I don't remember how fast was dial-up.
Oh, dial-up was slow as hell, like 56K tops, which you would basically get 1 kilo if you were lucky.
Yeah, so let's say if it was kind of like 10 times the first time I got internet, like broadband, was like at least 10 times faster than dial-up. So if dial-up gave you 50K, I had 500K basically.
Yeah,
initially.
500. That's what I got at first. I kind of still pay the same thing I did then, but now I have a speed of 300 megabits.
Yeah, it's one of the only situations in Romania where the free market actually worked as it was supposed to work.
We have awesome internet and companies that will tear each other's throat out just to get your business.
Yeah, but that only in that circumstance. No, that's the only department. So we had pretty good internet, so we could, if the computer could run the game, it could actually run the fucking game. So we tried a bunch of 3D MMOs. So I tried the Lord of the Rings online. This was in I don't know, I think it was like a couple of weeks.
2007, I think.
Or a couple of months. Yeah, a couple of months period when most of the MMOs had trial periods. Back then, They had trial periods only in particular times of the year, not like not all the time.
Yeah.
So we tried Lord of the Rings Online, and it was kind of okay. It was kind of slow. It looked good, but I wasn't sold on it. Then we tried Eve Online.
Ooh, an Eve man.
Yeah, which was a completely different type of experience, and big sci-fi fan, obviously. If it's not obvious, it is. Trust me.
The thing I really didn't like about Eve back then, now they fixed it, is that you didn't actually pilot your ship. You would just click and it would go there.
Yeah. That's so basically you just set the course and it would go. I played it for a couple, maybe a few days until I got to a quest. This was still in the beginning, obviously. But I got a quest to bring some guys a pack of cigarettes. And I had to, I waited for like 25 minutes of going through jump gates just to give this guy a pack of cigarettes. And I was like, yeah, fuck that. And I deleted it and uninstalled it and never cared, never looked back, never regretted not playing Eve Online. Despite all the crazy, cool shit that's going on, I'm like, nope, no regrets. Zero. And then there was a trial for World of Warcraft. I had a 10-day trial, and I've actually opened up my Battle.net account management, whatnot, so I get a better idea of when it actually happened. So the free 10-day trial began in apparently the 1st of December, as far as I can tell.
What year?
I played that. 2007.
Ooh.
So I played that.
I think that's when I got into Eve.
And I don't
trials
know,
of it.
I don't know exactly why I have a free month after that. I don't know how or why that happened, but I had a free month that started on the 22nd of December, apparently. And I really enjoyed it because I obviously played the Warcrafts up until that point. I was a big fan of it. Big fan of Blizzard, still am. And I wasn't believing the hype of World of Warcraft back then. And then when I got in the game, I was really enjoying it. I never had any problem with the exaggerated aesthetic because I like it, fuck it, or the goofy approach.
The aesthetic I didn't really enjoy the aesthetic much because everything seemed to be like too big. Every card or every hallway was just too big until I actually got to see what it looked like from above, from a flying mountain. It looked like Warcraft, like the RTS.
Yeah. But yeah, no, so I didn't. I liked the graphics. I had no problem with it. Whether people said it was blocky or unrealistic, or I'm like, yeah, dude, it's fucking. There's anthropomorphic cows. What the fuck?
No.
I played the Tauren shaman, man.
Ooh, I hope that wasn't racist. What I just said.
It was speciesist.
Oh, yeah.
I also actually leveled as a restoration shaman, which is hard as fuck, by the way. So anyway, I started playing World of Warcraft. For a time, I could actually afford to play World of Warcraft. So I played it for like... I really started playing it in March of 2008. So this was kind of like a year after Burning Crusade was released. This was this was after the 1.4 patch, which for anyone who's played a lot of WoW, a lot of old WoW knows that up until 1.4, leveling was incredibly difficult because the spawn rates were shit and everybody camped to the spawn point, and it was really hard to level. But I was lucky enough to start playing right after that, so leveling wasn't that big of a nuisance. But this was also the time when you would get a mount at level 40 and have to pay for it with like really hard-earned gold. So yeah, that started me playing World of Warcraft, and I played it on and off up until the end of 2010.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. It was a big part of my life for quite a big chunk of my life, to be honest. And towards the end ish, I started describing it as my heroin addiction. Warcraft was my heroin addiction because I would literally spend time and effort in my real life, as it were, just so that I could then enjoy my virtual life in World of Warcraft. It was a weird period. Also from an age standpoint and other circumstances. So I preferred spending time in World of Warcraft than spending time in real life, as it were. I think that's an issue with many people at that time and place in their lives. But one of the main reasons that I was playing the game again was because I enjoyed spending time with the people. I played with some friends from high school, and we were part of a casual-ish guild, and we got to know the people in the guild, and that was a big part of playing World of Warcraft, actually hanging out with the guildies and talking to them and that sort of stuff. But yeah, so I stopped playing that in 2010, and I've been kind of keeping up. I stopped playing right before Cataclysm, and I've been keeping up with it. But it's nowadays it's not really. I don't have that type of time, to be honest. But I will return to World of Warcraft once it goes free to play. And it will.
Well, technically, the first 20 levels are free.
Yeah.
So you still have that?
Yeah, sure. But no, I'm not gonna. I have no reason to restart it now. I'm just saying, I will start it once the whole thing is free to play, because they're gonna have to go free to play at a certain point in time.
Eventually, like in maybe under 5 years, I guess.
Yeah. I would have thought it would be earlier, but they're still
going strong.
As long as. Obviously, if they weren't making money, it's Blizzard Activision. If they weren't making money, they wouldn't keep doing this. So they are. And
it's not as high as it used to be. Like, it's not 11 millions, but it's still around 5 or 6.
Of course, it's impossible to sustain that sort of. No, it's like, statistically speaking, some people will literally stop playing or start playing something different, or just move on with their lives.
Mm-hmm.
But I recently read a really interesting article on Gamma Sutra about something that's going on in on the test sort of servers, or in the beta for the next expansion, and that from what I understand, Blizzard is planning to actually basically change feature creep or power creep is a problem with MMOs and all kinds of games that add on expansions and updates and patches and DLCs and shit like that. So if initially the level cap was 60, I think the level cap now will become 120.
Yep.
That's basically literally double.
Remember when it was level 40 Elite Torrent Chieftain?
Yeah, it was funny.
Now it's level
was it level 40? I think it was level 60 from the beginning.
40 or 60?
I think it's 60 because that was the first cap, 60.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Even the music leveled up.
Yeah. And apparently, this means that right now damage is in the millions.
Oh, yeah. They actually addressed this a bit in the Warlords expansion, because they just slashed like 100 off all the numbers. But if you went back to the older regions, the numbers would still be in the millions.
Yeah. And apparently they're going to do the same thing. I mean, they're going to do a similar thing with crafts and, the professions that you had. So if, I think the cap now is something like 800, they're going to basically retcon that back to 200, just so that they have smaller numbers. And this article proposed the idea that this might actually be a Blizzard trying the waters for what would eventually be basically a compressing of the levels or dialing back of level caps. which basically would allow them to literally reboot the level progression. So once this next patch, which is Battle for Azeroth, I think it's called.
Yep.
Once this one is released, the level cap will be 120, and it becomes a huge problem for new players.
Well, not really, because with each expansion they get you get to level 95 boost or to level 100.
Maybe, yeah, I guess that happens, sure, but that takes away a lot from the. Something I understand they did is that there's no more. Each region you go to scales to your level.
Yeah, I think that they changed that too.
Yeah, which means you can basically level up your character wherever you enjoy spending time. It's kind of a two-sided thing. It would make sense for some areas to be like really difficult. I mean, from a realistic standpoint, but from a business and gameplay standpoint, it's nice for players to be able to level wherever they want to level.
Elder Scrolls Online did something similar because, being Elder Scrolls, you think, I'm free to go anywhere I want to. And the answer was, of course, no, because the game was a disaster at launch. But later on, they actually changed it so that you can go everywhere and try to fight enemies you'd find there. Not to succeed, but you can try at least.
So this article said that maybe this is maybe Blizzard is trying the waters for a bit later in time to actually slash the levels and go back to a 60 level cap.
So to wipe the slate clean, as it would say, a tabula rasa, if you will.
Yeah, which would make managing numbers slightly easier, at least for the players, for sure. But it would be a pretty hard sell for the entrenched WoW players just to get, and that's why I think they're doing this, just to get used to the idea. Because if you look at it objectively, it's like, yeah, sure, smaller numbers. It's still the same fucking game.
Also, they want to add the vanilla servers of their own back.
I think that's like that's the background reasoning for this. Because it would allow them to work things around and maybe actually bring vanilla back and as non-vanilla-ish of a form as they can. But I would totally play that, to be honest. I would totally go back to WoW to play basic World of Warcraft. Because I never really got to play basic. I got to play Burning Crusade starting from Burning Crusade onwards. But I never got to do all of those initial historic raids. The quest with what's his name's wife?
There was a quest you had to find someone's wife, and everybody kept looking for the wife of the character, but nobody realized that she was just a corpse somewhere in the battlefield, dead. Markham, or what was his name?
I don't know. Doesn't.
It was a famous, infamous quest.
Mind you, there were a fuck ton of quests in that game.
But this one was famous. I need to look it up.
I don't know. It doesn't sound that very.
Mankrick's wife. Yeah, with the quest Lost in Battle and the Barons.
Oh, the Barons chat. Ooh,
yeah.
That was a thing. That was a thing because everybody had to spend time in the Barons. Was one of those regions where you had to spend like is it from level 20 to 30 about? I think that was the level interval. Spending time in the Barons. So that's World of Warcraft for you, or actually for me. And I really found that article interesting because if there was something besides free to play that would maybe get me back into the game, would be the ability to play vanilla World of Warcraft. And I'm pretty sure we could get a couple of other 30-something lapsed WoWers back to the game for that sort of experience.
Mm-hmm. My experience with WoW is a lot more limited than that. I played it around 2007, I think, on a, quote, private server for a couple of days. And this was at the point where, well, I really didn't like this kind of game anymore. The theme park kind of game with predefined quests, with predefined outcomes, with predefined basically everything. I wanted something a bit different, a bit more. So that's why I really like the idea of Tabula Rasa, which was a game where the enemy was fighting against you. The enemy was trying to kill you and every NPC in the world. You would have to defend them, because if you didn't, you'd wake up, oh, I just logged into the town I was in. Oh, look, nobody's on the streets. Why? Oh, look, there's a guy with a giant cannon in my face and he's shooting me. Oh, no, everybody's dead.
Yeah, the idea and the concept behind Tabula Rasa was a solid one, but the execution was the lacking part.
Yeah, it had some performance issues, it had some bugs, and the late game was not all that fleshed out. And this was the time when people were crazy about PvP. Like, everybody, we need to have PvP. PvP must be everywhere. PvP must be all the thing that exists. Whereas now it's the looter shooter kind of craze where you just zone out and shoot stuff and get loot. And Tabula Rasa did that quite well in terms of gameplay, in terms of how it made you feel when you were even grinding. It was fun. It felt like you were playing a shooter. It didn't have shooter mechanics. Bullets would pass through trees. It didn't calculate, trajectories. But it was still fun. It was very mobile, very, very entertaining.
Wasn't it designed by Lord British?
Yeah, by Richard Garriott. It's kind of his fault that we have Korean MMOs as well, because he was one of the designers of Lineage.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
He had a big hand in making MMOs. Not only did he coin the term MMO, but he sort of made the blueprint for both the open style MMO, the sandbox MMO Totem Online, and he helped shape the theme park one with Lineage, and I think he did work at what was NC Soft for a while, as well as at other games. Of course, there was other MMOs before. There was Meridian 59. There was almost a Might and Magic Online game, which...
Wait a minute, NC Soft. I think NC Soft managed that game I'm talking about at a certain point. I think they bought it or something. I'm going to look into that. Sorry,
they probably closed it down because they closed down Tabula Rasa. And Auto Assault, Auto Assault was one I really wanted to try. Never got a chance to because they closed it down. It was based on the idea of having a car and doing stuff with it. Though actually, Tabula Rasa closing down did give me one of the best experiences I ever had, which is that of the death of an MMO, which I made a show about.
I watched that, yeah.
It was a beautiful experience, just persisting at the death of an MMO. It may not have been as they did put some effort into making it a grand finale, but they sort of were limited by the fact that there was no budget and everybody was fired. One of them was in space when he got fired. That's Richard Garriott.
Yeah, I remember about that particular scandal-ish, yeah.
It was nice. It was a really nice ending, but other games just went all out nuts. Like the Matrix Online, which is the canonical continuation of the Matrix series, just had people turning into monsters and stuff happening, and the Matrix crashing, basically things facing out. It was a lot more involved.
Yeah, I remember that that being an event, like in gaming news back then.
Yeah, endings were, even for betas, I remember Ultima Online had demons showing up and killing everybody.
Makes sense.
And there's a famous screenshot of a Lord British somewhere in the game world, played by Richard Garriott, and a demon killing a peasant, or not a peasant, but a player. And the guy said, "Why art thou killing us, my lord?" Like in character. It's a character in that world. He said it. It's an amazing thing. Yeah, games can provide. MMOs can make a lot of their own culture that may not make sense to others, but it's more than a bunch of in jokes. It's a culture. It's a thing. Like you said, the Baron Shat. It's something that you have to experience to understand. That you have to live through. Like the ending of an MMO or grinding for not 50, but at least 5 days in Corsica to get some frog legs and going insane.
Hey, frog legs are tasty, man.
Yeah, there was a quest to get frog legs in a quest. I basically went insane just grinding for 5 days. I made an alt character just to talk to it because I was grinding when other people were not in the game.
I see. Yeah, so I don't think NCSoft did not actually manage the game because I've seen their lists and it's not amongst them. But yeah, anyway. So what was next? Did anything come after?
After Tabula Rasa?
Tabula Rasa?
Yeah, the idea of there being a living world where things happen on their own was another big part of Rift Plains of Talara, or Pures of Talara, which was the initial name of it. That game was made with the promise of it having a different kind of technology in its servers and its client, where they could change things on the server in the game world, and you did not need to download the patch for it.
Yeah, I remember some people playing that whilst I was playing WoW or after that, and I looked at it. I wasn't really interested, to be honest.
Gameplay-wise, it's still World of Warcraft. It's very close to it, but the fact that enemies can just march into town and kick everybody out, that was always fun. Also, in the beta, we got to fight a giant chicken that had like 5 million life points. I don't think we were meant to kill it, but we did, and got nothing for it.
That's always the problem. That's a problem in tabletop RPGs as well.
If you stat it, they will kill it.
Yep.
Or at least try.
Yeah, so they will obviously try, but if it's statted, then there is a marginal possibility that everyone just crits all the time. So, yeah. As long as it's statted, doesn't matter how insane the stats are. Technically speaking, at least in D&D terms, if it's a crit is a crit, so 5% chance.
Which is why the Lady of Pain doesn't have stats usually.
Yes, she shouldn't.
Another big MMO that also promised to change things was Firefall, which I did a show about recently.
Yeah, I also saw that. I remembered, so I watched your show, and I remembered remembering something about the title, but then seeing your rundown, I was like, okay, so that's why nothing ever happened.
It under-delivered like a lot more than Tabula Rasa ever dreamed it could. Which is really very, very... It was a complete shame. Have you tried any other MMOs recently, past couple of years?
No, after WoW, I wasn't really in the mood for MMOs anymore. I actually had started at a certain point after WoW, like a couple of years after that, I started a YouTube channel. So I started doing my movie reviews initially. So I was busy doing that stuff, and definitely not a lot of time for MMOs until very relatively recently when I started playing PUBG.
Yeah, technically that is an MMO-ish.
Yeah, well, it's
sort of fits the definition. Yeah. I used to do a show called Free MMO back at Games Arena. I did it for like 2 or 3 years, and I played like 100 free MMOs, and some of them were in this category where you would have not a persistent world but a persistent character, and you would fight in arenas and stuff like that. A lot of them were crap.
Well, they're free, so
yeah. Well, some of them did put some effort in, like Pirates of the Bering Sea was what I wanted Voyage Online to be. It was more involved, you had better PvP, you had more skills, you had less grind and more fun, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but nowadays and I've been keeping up with gaming news in general, but MMOs, MMORPGs especially, since I play RPGs, just don't have the same type of appeal they did way back then. Mostly because I'm in a different stage in my life right now.
Yeah.
And then I was like 10 or 15 years ago, obviously. But also, I'm much more interested in playing indie games and indie RPGs, as you well know, and city builders and strategy games and that sort of stuff. And the MMO experience is something that would take away from that, because there's only so much time in the day that I can dedicate to playing games. And I would much rather invest that time into, like spotlighting indie games. But I do play PUBG quite a bit. It's pretty much it's kind of a relaxing sort of thing for me. I don't get that much into it. I'm a poor shot, but that's the main reason why I like PUBG as much as I do, is that it allows me to play the game passively, or survival, as you want, basically avoiding gunfights for as long as possible. That's how I like to play the game, and one of the reasons that I do play it is that it allows me to play it like that, as opposed to something else that is very combat oriented.
Yeah, combat was really a problem with even MMOs I liked. One of the few MMOs that I actually spent money and I bought was The Secret World, because it had a really fantastic accent put on story, on investigation quests that you could do cooperatively, and you kind of had to, because I didn't know Morse code, so I had to rely on other people. But the combat in it was kind of... It did have some tactical depth to it, so you could put enemies in stances, and certain attacks would do different effects on that stance, and you would need a party to fully utilize that. But the combat was so slow that it would take you a minute to kill a single enemy. You basically did no damage. They sort of rebooted the game recently. Haven't tried it yet. Probably should see if they improved upon the combat in the way I wanted to.
Yeah, so now we're in an age of MOBAs. I mean, I think we're kind of past the age of MOBAs, and we're into this battle royale
age
era, which I think is still gonna. I mean, I think this year we're gonna see like a bunch of titles.
Oh yeah, I mean, Call of Duty has some MOBA mode in the latest one, and Battlefield will probably have one too.
MOBA or Battle Royale?
Oh, MOBA, pardon, Battle Royale. Keep getting confused. The trends.
Makes sense. So I think, I think we're actually gonna reach saturation point with Battle Royale faster than we did with MOBAs. I'm not really sure why, but that's just the feeling I get.
I think the industry is a bit bigger and more people can make games now, and they're just everywhere.
Yeah, partially that, and also it's Battle Royale got higher in mainstream awareness much faster than MOBAs did.
Oh yeah,
so that's what makes me think that it's gonna peak out much quicker than MOBAs have.
I mean, Fortnite is a thing that people talk about on TV.
Yeah, which
nobody talks about League of Legends, and it's got or World of Tanks even, and that has 100 million players.
Yeah, but they did play. They did used to talk slightly about League of Legends, but they talk about Fortnite much more so because I guess it got into the mainstream. I've never played it because it's not. It doesn't appeal to me. Like I said, I'm a much more of a PUBG human. But there is also another title that's kind of interesting. It's a similar experience, but quite different, and it's Hunt Showdown.
Oh, the one by Crytek, yeah.
Yeah, which is a team-based thing, but it's it's you against the environment and against other players. And it's still in early access, and they still have a fuck ton of bugs and shit. But the atmosphere in that game is so well done, and the entire world and story is weird and creepy and just general grimy fucked up. So that's one thing I'm looking forward to playing more in the future as it gets more patched. And I'm still playing my fair bit of PUBG, but not that much. I'm looking forward to seeing different things. I don't know about. I'm really interested in playing some really cool card games on the internet. Because
I'm going to interrupt you. There was actually an MMO-ish. The MMO card game that you had cards for creatures you could collect, and it played like Total War. That was called Saga Online. It died.
Yeah, no, but I recently have returned to playing Magic the Gathering in real life. and it really reignited the appeal of playing card games. And there's a couple of card games. I mean, there's one title that I've been following for a couple of years called, I think it's Phageborn or Plagueborn, and they're still working on it. But since we talked earlier about MOBAs, Valve relatively recently announced that they're working on a card game called Artifact.
Yep.
Based on their Dota 2 characters and stuff. But
which I'm still curious of one thing. Do they still call Lina Inverse in Dota 2? Because if they do, that's kind of a breach of copyright. Because Lina, that's a character from the anime Slayers. That's what she always was.
I don't know. I do not know. But I do know I used to, when I did play some Dota 2, I played with her because I like fire-based abilities.
Even her attacks have the same name.
You can check it out. I don't know. Maybe they got, I don't know, maybe it's general enough that it can work.
Hopefully.
So I am actually looking forward to Artifact a lot because it's actually being, one of the designers of Artifact is Richard Garfield, who designed Magic the Gathering. He's the initial creator. He's the guy who came up with the idea and created the first couple of sets for Magic the Gathering, and also designed the recent Magic the Gathering set called Dominaria, which is really nice, really good. So the fact that, first of all, it's Valve, so they're going to work on it until it's really solid.
And then probably cancel it.
No, I don't think. I don't know about this one because they wouldn't have brought in Richard Garfield otherwise. The fact that he is working on it really elevates the project in my eyes by a whole lot. I mean, it elevates it so much that I'm looking forward to playing it, which is not something I could say about that Witcher card game that was a thing for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's sort of. I never played the standalone one at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I know some people played it because it was just after Witcher 3, which I didn't play, granted. So again, but whilst I enjoyed the Witcher series and the world, I didn't enjoy it that much to play the card game.
Yeah. So this show isn't another hour and a half like the last one. I'm going to ask you 2 final questions.
Go.
What was your best memory of an MMO and your biggest regret?
Best memory of MMO, raiding Karazhan with my guild back then, and anyone who played WoW during that period knows that the Kara runs or Karazhan runs were just the thing you did. I was like because it was a tiered raid, obviously, and you could go with like first level. You could anyone could do that. Anyway, so it was running. One of the best memories is running Karazhan with my guild, and us getting killed, and one of the guildies started playing over the mic. What was he playing? He either played Push It to the Limit through the thing. So that was awesome. Regret. I don't know. I don't actually regret the time I spent playing WoW.
What about the other one?
Well, since I can't remember the name of it, apparently I'm at a place of peace with it, I guess. So I don't really regret that. I mean, yeah, not remembering the time. I do remember it was like a couple of months, and back then, like when you're 22. A year seems like a lot. Once you're 32, a year is just like, yeah, fine.
Yeah.
So it's also a perspective and time, space sort of thing. One of the regrets is that World of Warcraft wasn't cheaper, to be honest. Because if it were cheaper, I could have played it for longer, and I really wouldn't have regretted doing that either. That's
my best memory is a toss-up between the ending of Tabula Rasa and just your average day, average evening playing Voyage Online with the old crew. That was always fun, just hanging in there, just talking, making jokes, feeding our dogs, and getting them to fight. We had pets.
Wait. Virtual dogs, I hope.
Yeah, virtual dogs. We had tigers too.
Don't say that. Don't say you're getting those to fight.
We would make dogs fight tigers because we could, and we'd go to Crete and get our ass handed to us by bears. Biggest regret, there's a couple of them. There's EverQuest Next being cancelled because that's a game I would have wanted to play. There's me not playing EverQuest, the first one ever, well, like at least when it was its time. Not playing Meridian 59, not getting into Ultima Online, not getting into Dark Age of Camelot. Basically, not playing any of the actual good MMOs.
Oh well, I enjoyed my time in WoW so much that I don't regret not playing other MMOs.
Yeah, didn't really get too much into WoW, so I have more to regret.
Obviously, because I enjoyed my time there. So yeah.
Well, I guess that's would be it for
we got it under an hour.
No, oh god, no! It's over an hour, but it's less than 1.5 hours this time.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Let's wrap it up.
That's it for this decision of Game Tales. And again, if you know what game Stephen is referring to, please say so in the comments.
Yeah, I would like to know. I mean, I will know if I see it. I'm not even sure. If I'll recognize the name. I think I can sort of remember that it was a one-word name, and maybe it had like an R in it or a P or something like that. I don't know. It's somewhere in the bowels of my...
It's not RuneScape, if you're wondering.
No, it's not RuneScape. No. But yeah, that would be just fun for me to. Interesting point. I found a post on Reddit from someone who's looking for a game kind of similar to what I'm saying. It has just like a slight or one or two differences, but it's basically the same game, and there's no answer to it either. So I don't know. It's the answer will probably come from a Romanian who played it at the same time and still remembers the goddamn name. Hopefully,
we'll see. Well, that's it for this edition of Game Tales. So check out Stefan's channel if you have the chance. He's got a lot of content on it, and also check out our shows if you want to. I bid you all adieu. Stefan, do you have any closing words?
Nothing special. Thank you for listening. Leave us feedback in the comments and maybe even other subjects you'd like us to wax, not necessarily philosophical about, but old school gaming about. And see you next time.